The Waterfront Block Party 2022, hosted by Friends of the Waterfront Seattle, is coming up Saturday, July 9th at Pier 62 from 4 to 8 p.m. It's free and all ages. Celebrate the arrival of summer at Pier 62 with your waterfront neighbors, featuring free live music, dance, parades, food trucks, a beer garden, and more. Come on down to Pier 62 and celebrate the summer at the Waterfront Block Party, July 9th, with friends, family, and the community.
I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time, and back in my day, when we wanted to hear the radio, we had to stick a couple of coat hangers on Grandpa's head so his cavity fillings could pick up an AM station. But it's the 21st century now, so whenever I want to hear Rainier Avenue Radio.world, I listen to it on the brand new Rainier Avenue Radio app on my Android or iPhone. Download it for free at the Google Play Store or the iPhone App Store, the Rainier Avenue Radio.world app.
Join Rainier Avenue Radio from 5 to midnight for Sunday evening sound sessions. Jazz from the Cabinets from Big Poppy.
That's right. It's time once again for Jazz from the Cabinets with Big Poppy.
Sergio LaCour's Love Lines.
It's Sergio's Love Lines with Sergio LaCour. Go to the phone line. Tell her who we talking to.
Sage Prince, Just My Opinion.
This is Sage, and that's just about going to do it for the first half of Just My Opinion.
K-Fox Night Beat with Nasty Ness Rodriguez.
The beat of the Fox. K-Fox Night Beat, Nasty Ness.
You know what? You're going to listen from 5 to midnight. Just turn it on and don't stop. DJ Alibaba. The Underground Surround Sound Star Time with Paul Pearson.
Thanks for tuning in. My name is Paul Pearson.
Sunday evening sound
Star
sessions on Rainier Avenue Radio. Trust me, you'll be listening the entire time from 5 to midnight. Sunday evening, your sound session on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Something amazing happens when you buckle a seatbelt. It's kind of magic when we put our phones out of reach, like in the glove compartment, or give extra room for someone on their bike. That little act of stopping to let someone cross the street, it's a thing of beauty. Even getting a ride home after drinking is quite heroic, because doing all the little things plays a huge role in keeping us safe on the road. Together, we get there. A message from the Washington Traffic Safety Commission.
I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time, and this is my real voice. Honest. You're hearing it on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Should have told her you were sorry.
Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. This is your Impacts of the Coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding community show that we have been doing every Friday since March 13th, 2020, and will continue to do as we know coronavirus affected and impacted everything, literally everything. And so we continue to talk about the aftermath, if you will, of coronavirus. Are we in an endemic now and no longer in a pandemic? But still, the lingering effects of the pandemic are moving forward with us as part of how we do what we do. Everybody's not interested in going back to what was called normal. But that's not just people, that's also business, and things have changed. We're going to be talking about a traffic change on Rainier Avenue. Rainier Avenue is going to begin construction, or Seattle Department of Transportation, in partnership with King County Metro, are going to begin construction on a new bus lane on Rainier Avenue. They've been making safety improvements on Rainier Avenue South over the past several years, and it's part of something called the Vision Zero project. So they've been building other safety and intersection improvements as part of the Route 7 Transit Plus Multimodal Corridor project. I know I'm using a lot of $25 words here, but we'll find out what these words mean. And the 7 on Rainier Avenue is one of Seattle's busiest bus routes and serves around 8,000 people per day. That was actually over 11,000 folks per day during the pandemic. So, one lane, basically, either way you go on Rainier Avenue. That construction will be taking place this weekend. So we're going to find out what that's going to look like this weekend for you. Does that mean Rainier Avenue is going to be shut down completely? And we're going to take a look at what this means moving forward for Rainier Avenue and those of you who use Rainier Avenue as your major form thoroughfare to get to where you need to go, whether it be via car, it's going to be a lot different, or whether you use the transit system, that will be different. Joining me from the Seattle Department of Transportation is Mr. Jim Curtin. Jim, how you doing?
Good, Tony B. Thanks for having me today.
Well, welcome to the program. Big changes come. I think big changes. We're talking Rainier Avenue. Again, I like to say, Jim, that you can get anywhere in the country from Rainier Avenue. You know?
I like that.
If you're going south or north, you can just take the Dearborn Street and jump on I-5. Or if you're going east, you can just jump on I-90. And then pretty much anywhere in the city you want to go, if you're on Rainier Avenue, you can find out how to get there now. I know that, of course, I'm celebrating South Seattle. So, but literally, Rainier Avenue Radio is one of the busiest thoroughfares in the city, if I'm not mistaken. And Jim, does the 7 transport the highest number of folks in the city on that particular route?
That's a great question. The Route 7 is one of the busiest transit routes in Seattle. Not quite the top, actually. The Rapid Ride E-Line that goes from downtown Seattle up Aurora Avenue North up to the city of Shoreline is the busiest route in town. But Rainier is one of the top. I think it's the third busiest route in town.
Okay. I said a couple of things earlier. I said I was talking about something called the Vision Zero project, and so I'm going to have you explain to us what that is in a second. And then I also mentioned something about the Transit Plus Multimodal Corridor project. Now, I don't quite know exactly what those things mean, but let's start off with this, Jim. Tell us what your role is with the Seattle Department of Transportation.
Yeah, my role is to help oversee the development of various different projects for the city of Seattle and the Department of Transportation to create a transportation system that is safe and provides mobility and accessibility for everyone, no matter how they decide to get around, whether they're walking, biking, driving, or hopping on the bus. We want to make sure that it's a reliable and safe experience. And you know, in many cases, we want to encourage people to hop on the bus or walk over to MLK and hop on light rail as well, because that's one less car on the road, and that's fewer, less congestion, less CO2 getting emitted out into the atmosphere as well, and we'll create healthier and better Seattle in the long run.
All right. Now, the Vision Zero project, Rainier Avenue South. Vision. What is that? What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. And boy, Rainier has been front and center in the Vision Zero discussion for a long time here. So let me start by saying Vision Zero is really a worldwide movement to think about traffic crashes differently, right? Basically, the idea here is that we believe that no one should die or be seriously injured in traffic collisions, and that it's completely preventable, and that we as the government need to change the roadways so that we are putting people into the most favorable conditions possible while they're out there. And again, whether you're walking, biking, driving, or taking the bus, we want you to be safe out there. So Vision Zero is our plan to eliminate fatal and serious injury crashes by the year 2030 in the city of Seattle. And for a long time, Rainier Avenue South was the epicenter of fatal crashes in Seattle. And we've been doing a lot of different work, a lot of different projects out there over the years, and we've made some big safety gains out on Rainier. And we're hoping that this bus project will not only make transit more reliable, but make the street safer as well.
You brought it up. You know the deal here on Rainier Avenue Radio. We just have open, honest, frank discussion. We discuss our community, and we reflect, just like a mirror, our community. So if you're looking at the mirror, if you're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio or watching us, and you don't like what you see, well, we're simply reflecting what's going on in our community. If you're listening, looking, and you like what you see, same deal. We're just reflecting what goes on in our community. Now, we also have to shine a spotlight on all of the incredible things and people that happen in our community, because often your mainstream media does not do that. But in this particular case, I'm backing up because folks might be wondering, why are these changes going on? I want to not let what you said just pass by when you were talking about accidents, deaths, injuries on this thoroughfare called Rainier Avenue. Can you give us some more detail about what you're talking about here? But from what I know, and I don't have the statistics in front of me, more people were hit and died on Rainier Avenue than even Aurora Avenue.
Yeah, well, I'm really happy to report that that statistic is a little outdated now.
Okay.
And really, the story goes way back. I mean, it goes back to the 1970s and the 1980s when people who lived and worked and played along Rainier Avenue said, "Hey, man, this street's not working for us. People are going too fast. People are crashing. People are crashing into people, buildings, you name it, right? People are getting hit out there." And so, over the years, community worked together with the government to make some change out there. And in 2015, in partnership with the community, and then at that time, Councilmember Bruce Harrell, now Mayor of Seattle, we started making significant changes in that 1 mile stretch between Columbia City and Hillman City. So roughly between South Alaska Street and South Orcas Street, we changed the road. We took it down to one lane in each direction. We did some things to make sure that transit moved through there really well. But we really wanted to do was slow down people, right? Because people were going too fast and causing too many crashes out there. Um, and it was successful. We've slowed things down to the speed of life, right? Where people can walk, to go to the farmer's market now without feeling like they're, putting their life of, either theirs or their children's lives at risk. And we saw serious crashes drop significantly out there. A few years ago, we extended that further south towards Rainier Beach. We picked up where we left off, and we took that redesign of the street all the way down to South Henderson Street, where you'll see bus lanes, you'll see new crossings, you'll see better pavement and all sorts of things to help people get across the street. And I'm really happy to report that Rainier used to be the deadliest street in town, right? And we made no bones about it. We wanted people to know that people were getting hit and killed out there, right? And now it's not even in the top 10. But that doesn't mean there's not more work to do, and that's why we're out there this weekend making some changes.
Okay, you said it. You said it. Statistics may have changed, but the deadliest street in town was Rainier Avenue Radio when it came to car accidents and people. Is that right?
That's correct.
And since the changes have been made, no longer in the top 10. Is that correct?
Correct. These changes have been positive.
Okay. Now, one of the reasons I bring this up is because you've also got a group of people who say, "Well, why are you doing this? I'm in a hurry. I'm trying to get somewhere." And Rainier, is the street that we use. And I don't know, Jim, that everyone is aware of why these changes are happening. And even when the changes started happening, and that's why I think it's important right now to let our community know what's taking place. But I did want to give folks a little background about why this is taking place. And so I mentioned before one of the $25 words I was talking about, the Vision Zero project. I don't mean to call it that, but you know what I'm saying. The other thing is, what is this Transit Plus multimodal corridor project? Jim, I don't know what that means.
Well, in government, we like to throw out these big long words and then we shorten them. We initialize them, right? So we take from Transit Plus Multimodal Corridor to TPMC, right? That's one of the things we do in government, and it's kind of hilarious. But, the intent of these projects is to create a more efficient and reliable transit system for people who rely on the bus and people who take the bus on a regular basis, but also take into consideration the fact, and this is something that had been lost in previous generations, right? Is that people have to get to the bus stop, right? And that usually means they have to cross the street, and in this case, cross Rainier Avenue at least once
Mhm.
to get to that transit stop. So while we're out there putting in bus lanes and putting in different type of signal schemes to make sure transit gets a priority, we're also looking at those crosswalks and curb ramps and looking at those crossings to make sure that people aren't exposed to traffic as much as they were in the past. And so with less exposure, there's less opportunities for conflict and, hopefully a safer and more comfortable way to get around town.
Okay, so what's going to be taking place this weekend? I'm going to try and get out of the way here and let you explain to those who live in the community and those who may be driving through the community what you're going to encounter this weekend, and cover the possibility. Is the entire street going to be closed at any point in time? Will one way be closed at any? What's this going to look like, and where's the construction going to be taking place?
Yeah, great question. So our crews are actually out there now. They started this morning, and they'll be working today, Saturday, and Sunday. We'll be adding a northbound bus-only lane from South Alaska Street to South Walden Street, so just north of Columbia City. And then we'll be adding a
Okay,
southbound.
starting at Alaska Street, right there at the Columbia City Library, Alaska Rainier Playfield, just so everybody northbound,
Correct.
northbound to Walden Street.
Which
And
is just south of the intersection with MLK.
right, okay. That
Mhm.
that that will now be a one lane road. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
And the bus lane is exclusively for buses.
Well, that's a great question, Tony. I'm glad you brought that up. We actually call this a BAT lane, which stands for um, Business Access and Transit
Oh,
Lane, right? That's what
you're
we
doing
call
it
it
to
in the
me
biz.
again, Jim. You're doing
Yeah.
it to me again.
Like I said, we do all the
Okay.
initialisms and the acronyms, right? But the idea here is that yes, the lane is dedicated for transit service so that the Route 7 can, get down the corridor in efficient manner. But if you're driving through the neighborhood and you want to take a right turn and you want to head into a business, or if you need to make a right turn onto your street or to reach the community center or some other destination, you're allowed to do that. You can go ahead and get into the bus lane to make that right turn. So bat lane, that's a new one for everyone today, right?
Okay. Now, here comes the big question regarding this lane. If you are driving in this lane, is that illegal? Can you receive some sort of ticket? Will you be fined? Is that part of this?
You know, if you are driving in that lane for a substantial length, like for several blocks, that is an infraction, and you can get pulled over and receive a citation for that. We you know, work really closely with the Seattle Police Department on these things. We believe that most people are going to adhere to the rules of the road. So we haven't asked the police to go out and do anything extra out there around this because we know that we have bus lanes in other parts of the Rainier corridor. And while some people violate that occasionally, we know for the most part people are following the rules of the road out there and doing their thing to make sure transit moves and people stay safe.
All right. So again, northbound, and this is new. And I living in South Seattle, I've kind of seen where they've been drawn on the street a little
Yeah.
bit, and something's coming, but that doesn't mean everyone is still paying attention. So from Alaska to Walden, which is right there around MLK, one lane for bus only. If you have to take a right turn or you need to take a right turn, you can get in the lane and do that. But you shouldn't be driving any distance if you're not taking a right turn in the bus lane. Is that correct?
That's absolutely 100% right.
Now, what about bikes? Can bikes be in the bus only lane?
Yes, typically bikes are allowed in bus only lanes. It depends on how comfortable you are as a bicyclist. Most people prefer to have, a little bit more beefy facility, something with some separation between traffic and, a bicyclist. Because, when you're on a bike, you don't have a steel chassis surrounding you like you do when you're driving a vehicle, right? So a lot of people feel more vulnerable that way. But if you're a confident cyclist and you want to ride in the bus lane, you can do so.
Okay. Again, my guest is Jim Curtin. We are talking about the changes coming to Rainier Avenue. Uh, Actually, this weekend, we just talked about the northbound changes. Jim, what's going on southbound?
Southbound, we're doing a shorter business access and transit lane, bus lane, and this will be from South Oregon to South Edmonds. So
Okay.
this basically traverses the Alaska intersection, that really busy intersection just north of Columbia City, as you mentioned, right by the library, right by the community center. And that's an area where during the busy times of day, what we call peak hours or rush hour, right? That's where we tend to see more congestion and more backups, right?
Mhm.
So we're putting in another bus lane through that intersection so that the buses can get through there in an efficient manner.
Okay. I'm trying to visualize that as I'm thinking southbound. Is there a center lane that's going to be in use there, that folks can turn left or right on? Because it seems like it's only one lane right now, but explain that to me so that I can create for me theater of the mind of what this is going to look like, again, from Oregon to what you said, Edmonds?
That's correct. Yeah. So yeah, in this area there is a center turn lane. So if you want to take a left turn in through this section here, you will be provided space to do that, and that provides really critical access. As you said, from Rainier, you can get all over the place, right? So if you're headed northbound, you can take a left on you using a left turn lane to go west on Alaska Street. And of course, you can go up and over Beacon Hill and get on I-5 that way. And if you're heading southbound, there will be a left turn lane provided there as well. So that if you want to take a left onto Alaska and head east over towards the community center, you'll be able to do so. There will be one through lane in each direction for just the general traffic, people who want to go north and south. And then again, there will be that bus lane southbound through that area so those buses can get through in an efficient manner.
Now, is this going to, in some way, disrupt the transit service over the weekend? In particular, will folks be able to go to the bus stop that they always go to? Will there be temporary bus stops as these changes are being made to Rainier Avenue Radio? What is that going to look like, or will it be different?
Yeah, I think you hit everything there, Tony. I think all of the above there. So, the road is going to be open during construction, but there will be periodic lane closures and some delays out there. And this will be throughout the day. And, today our crews will be off the street around 3 o'clock, but on Saturday and Sunday they'll be out there from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. working out there. And as they, traverse up and down the corridor, there will be some temporary bus stop closures, especially on the northbound side, because that's where the most significant amount of work is going there. So there will be some bus stop closures at Edmonds, Alaska, Genesee, 33rd Ave South, and Walden Street. But they won't be closed all day. They'll be closed for maybe an hour or two at a time. And we'll actually provide like a detour to a temporary bus stop while that work is going on. So you might be surprised when you go out there to see some signage up there that says, hey, this stop is closed. But we'll also provide some wayfinding up to where the temporary stop is. So if you need to hop the Route 7, you can go out there and absolutely access the bus while this is going on.
Now, we already mentioned that this was already underway before the pandemic. Uh, did the pandemic have any impact or effect on this particular decision? And the other question, and maybe these are related, what impact did the pandemic have on bus ridership? And did you gain any additional knowledge uh, that you're using moving forward in your decision making?
Yeah, absolutely. The pandemic weighed heavily on our decision making here, Tony. The Route 7, like we said earlier, is one of the busiest routes in town, and it stayed really busy during the pandemic, right? Pre-COVID, we were looking at a little more than 11,000 riders per day, and we're still at about 8,000 riders per day, and it remained that way throughout the pandemic. And so we saw that, and we said, hey, people are on the bus. people are still taking the bus. Let's do whatever we can to make a very successful bus service even better so that we can attract more people to come back to transit and ensure that people who are taking it today continue to do so. So we very much took our cues from COVID and were able to move this project forward in a very very quick manner, government speaking wise, right? I think without question, this is going to help people who live and work in the valley and depend on the Route 7, get to those destinations in a quick and predictable manner, whether they're going to a school or daycare, a grocery store, a job, a community center, wherever you're going, this is going to benefit those people who are on the bus for sure.
Do you have information, Jim, about the percentage of folks in South Seattle who utilize the transit service as opposed to cars? Uh, you know, uh, for whatever reason, folks may not have a car. Maybe they've chosen to get rid of a car. Are there a lot of cars in South Seattle? Do you have that type of information that you can kind of draw a path between? Well, this is also a reason why we think there's an increased need for let's call it faster, more efficient bus service?
Yeah, we know from census data actually that auto ownership is lower in Southeast Seattle and in District 2. So there are fewer car owners in this area. And definitely, we have a lot of people who are utilizing transit service. And that's not just the Route 7, right? We've got uh, the light rail system that is just a few blocks to the west on MLK, and another or several other transit routes that are super successful in the area, right? So, this is what we need in the city of Seattle. This is exactly what we want to see in other neighborhoods as well, is people making the choice, even if they own a car, to take the bus, take light rail, and get another car off the roadway.
All right, Jim. We're almost out of time, but I gotta ask you this. What do you say to folks who say this just sucks? I can't get anywhere expeditiously. It's one lane, it's backed up for blocks. I go to work in the morning and it takes forever. I got to get up. Then when I want to come home from work, in addition to whatever traffic there is, the freeway, now there's all this traffic on Rainier, and I haven't heard anything about this. I just keep hearing there's traffic, changes being made, and I didn't vote on anything. Um, uh, this is just not working for me. What do you say to those folks?
Yeah, undoubtedly, there are people out there who haven't been in the loop on this. We've been doing outreach on Rainier for a long time, but obviously people come and go. There's new people coming to the neighborhood all the time. What we say in those situations is like, we have to look back to what Rainier previously was, and you know what it was? It was an old state highway. It was a state highway controlled by the Washington State Department of Transportation until the 1990s, and it was turned over to the city of Seattle at that time. And there hadn't been a whole lot of changes to the roadway, so it functioned very much like a freeway, just barreling straight down the middle of these communities, right? And the repercussions of that were really bad crashes, right? Back in 2014 and 2015, we had a stretch where we had something like 15 serious or fatal crashes within like a 6-month period. And these are crashes where cars are leaving the road, going through buildings, and pinning the customers of those businesses up against the wall, seriously injuring them. It's completely the opposite of what we want to see in the city of Seattle. We want to see people get to where they're going in a safe and efficient manner. And sometimes, if you're driving a car, that means you have to leave a few minutes earlier. You got to build a couple more minutes into your day to get to where you're going. Or you can hop on the bus, which is now going to operate much more efficiently than it was previously. In fact, we anticipate that the average trip will be 2 minutes faster on the Route 7, and that during those rush hour periods when congestion is super heavy, you'll be able to traverse that route 6 minutes faster. That's super substantial, and could really save a lot of people a lot of stress if they decide to ditch the keys to the car and hop on the bus.
Jim, I'm almost out of time here. I'm not out of questions, but I'm almost out of time. And that being the case, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds here to 45 seconds for final words. Anything you would like to say, in particular to the residents of South Seattle, or just in general to our city about changes that are going on in our communities that SDOT is involved in partnership with McKean County Metro.
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, I want to thank everyone for working with us as we rethink the way that we design our streets and the way that we prioritize different modes of travel on our streets. We know this is, somewhat different than we've all experienced over the years, and we're really trying to be forward thinking here so that we can achieve a lot of the goals that we have as a city. Safety is without question our top priority. And, Rainier, as we've covered here today, has a dubious past as far as that's concerned. So, we absolutely want to make sure that no matter how you're getting around town, we want you to get there. And we want you to come home to your friends and family at the end of the day safe and sound so you can go out and, um, you know, enjoy each other's company. I think also we want to encourage people to hop on the bus or the light rail train or however you want to get around. That could be walking or biking if you're so inclined to do so, to help us with our climate goals too. We're facing a serious battle with climate change, and these changes to our roadways are going to help us uh, manage those impacts because in the city of Seattle, transportation emissions are the number one contributor to climate change. So we know we've got to get more people riding the bus. We need more people walking and biking to school and work. Uh, and quite frankly, we still need to provide space for people who want to drive, right? People who maybe work multiple jobs and have to take their vehicle uh, between those two jobs. Like we want to make sure that everyone's accommodated out there, but that everything occurs as safe and efficiently as possible. Because there's one thing that always will ruin everyone's day, and that is when there is a bad crash on the corridor and it's closed for 2 to 3 hours because there has to be a huge investigation afterwards. That is not only is it inconvenient, but somebody's life was potentially lost or in danger. And you know what? We're humans. We make mistakes. We don't want those mistakes to result in serious injuries or deaths. So I will just say, thanks to everyone in the Valley, in District 2, in Southeast Seattle. We've been doing this for a long time on Rainier Avenue, and it's been a big shift. It's been a big change, but the data is showing that what we're doing out there is helping create a safer community and one that's more connected and it's not divided by what was, previously a state highway. So thank you all.
All right, Jim. Thank you, Jim. And you took that 30, 45 seconds and turned it into 2 minutes, but it was important information. So I'll give a bus pun here. I just let it ride.
Love it.
Good information, though. We are going to be continuing with our impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding community show. We're going to ask you to turn over from if you're watching on our visual channels, we want you to go to our audio only channels and you'll get 90 more minutes of information about the impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. Jim, thanks for joining me. That's it. It's all the time I have. That's going to do it for the kid. It's me, Tony B., your host. On the visual channel, we're going to go to the audio channel of the impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities, saying, remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you are probably right. I'm out.